Good evening, my fellow Titans. I'm not John Hamm. I am Dr. Jake Beniflah. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about a really big problem in the advertising industry that many people are now talking about. It's the diversity gap that is very problematic to many of you. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to tell you what that is, and I'm going to tell you why it's important to you. Many of you are graduating. Many of you are going to be looking for jobs. The diversity gap is so significant, it's much like the glass ceiling, but it's more like the front door that you can't get in. So no one's talking about this problem, because it was until 2 years ago that the Advertising Association in New York published its first diversity report of the industry. And let me tell you that the results were not very nice. The results were not very favorable. The results looked over thousands of ad agencies, big and small, medium-sized conglomerates, privately owned, public agencies, and they looked at data across gender, age, income, positions. All of the variables that you would imagine were examined. I'm going to show you some data that is going to underscore the significant problem that we have in this industry. For the first of all, about 70% of the industry is white. Across the country, the non-Hispanic white population makes up about 60%. So we are overrepresented by whites, and the minority of those that work in the ad business are multicultural. The second problem is when you think about who's running the ad agencies, about 90% are white. And so the minority, again, are the multicultural population. And this is ironic because our country is becoming more and more multicultural. And so what we're seeing here is that a complete inverse. We're seeing that these agencies are run by whites, and the work that these white CEOs, CMOs, CFOs are now being literally done by folks that, are like you and me. So where is the multicultural population working in ad agencies? So we looked at that, and we found some interesting results. For me, it was surprising and not surprising at the same time. Again, the majority of the white employees in ad agencies fall within the CEO upper echelons of the industry. Ironically, DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion positions, didn't exist 5 years ago. But we see the majority of black and brown employees bucketed in that specific position or function, which is interesting. In Asian, they are mostly concentrated in data analytics or in big data positions. So again, we're being relegated to specific functions based on ethnicity and race. This takes me back to the Mad Men concept. This is not a new concept. We just haven't addressed it. So Mad Men took place, as you know, back in the 1950s and 60s. It's John Hamm and a supporting cast of wonderful actors and actresses. But this really speaks to the systemic racism that we have yet to address within this industry. It's systemic because we see it in every facet of life. We see it in education, we see it in health, we see it in voting, we see it in housing, we see it in wealth. Anything that has a disparity, to me, is partly explained by this issue. So if you're watching Mad Men, you see the classism embedded within the cinematography. You also see the good old boys network very much alive, protects themselves, helps each other move up and around the industry. And you also have the glass ceiling that prevented women from being more than just secretaries. So John Hamm, or Don Draper, would say, hey, this is the way it is. This is the way that the industry is. Maybe so that in the 20th century. In the 21st century, I think we're in the position to change things. I'm here to advocate the total reduction, elimination of the diversity gap in advertising, specifically in Los Angeles, in 10 years. So this is a significant, audacious goal. Audacious. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it. But you've got to live your life with purpose, and you've got to go after the big goals and challenge yourself to do the big things. So I'm going to talk about 4 solutions. We're not here to talk about the problem. We already know the problem. We're talking about the problem. Organizational transformation is something that is huge. Most of the issue with diversity, equity, and inclusion today in organizations is that it's treated very much in the HR silo. So people who hire people are responsible for DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're going to make sure that people get paid their fair share. They're going to be included. They feel belonging. They feel like they belong within an organization. But it's too small. It's limited. Companies that are going to transform, if the companies need to align, if they're going to align to the changing demography, the entire company has to change. The strategy within the organization falls within and outside of HR. Organizational transformation, I believe, is the only way for organizations to really align themselves to the 21st century. Industry partnerships, huge. This is such a huge problem that we're going to need allies and partners in every corner of the industry. I'm really proud to say that the center that I started 10 years ago will be announcing a partnership with Think LA, which is a trade association in Los Angeles, who also has hundreds, if not thousands, of members of advertising agencies in Los Angeles. They share our commitment to create a pathway from Cal State Fullerton to all the ad agencies in Los Angeles so that all of my fellow Titans can break through that front door and get into an ad agency. Thirdly, removing all barriers. One of the things that I found out as a professor here is that many of my fellow Titans, first generation, who share very much, my life experience, didn't have internships, didn't have mentors. So we're building that one by one. I'm doing it pro bono. But my greatest gratification is seeing the Titans get jobs in Deloitte, Microsoft, advertising agencies in Los Angeles. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing them succeed. And fourthly, courage. Courage. We have to do the right thing. So 2 years after the pandemic ended, I finished writing a book. And I realized that everything I had written about the big shift, redefining marketing in a multicultural America, was missing this one thing. The key ingredient was courage, moral courage. So we can talk about all the strategies, all the things that we can do, that we need to do, but if we don't have the courage to change, nothing will change. So that's really, really fundamentally important, and it's as important, if not more important, than the first 3 strategies that we talked about. So in closing, I'm going to ask you, if it's not you who is going to join me in this endeavor, who will? If it's not now, when? I'm counting on all of the Titans, because we are going to be the Titans of industry sooner than later. And we need to address everything that we talked about tonight together. Thank you very much.